have conducted attacks in violation of the principles of distinction, proportionality, and/or precautions, which may amount to war crimes. Individuals in the de facto authorities have committed acts that may amount to war crimes, including cruel treatment and torture, outrages upon personal dignity, and conscripting or enlisting children under the age of 15.
Who are actually providing the weapons that are being put to such nefarious use in Yemen.
They're not investigating the Houthi violations as much, so they think that they were published by the UN are more biased towards benefiting the Houthis, because the report does say that most of the civilian casualties are caused by the Saudi-led coalition. And of course, you have then a wide range of violations happening, like child recruitment, you have constant shelling, you have planting of landmines in residential areas. And at the end of the day, we need to remember that all of this at the cost of the Yemeni people, who continue to suffer, and I think will enter is entering the fifth year of conflict with no end in sight.
All right, Shibak, thank you very much indeed for talking to us live from Kuala Lumpur. Right, we can go to our correspondent now, Alan Fisher, who is just across the water from Yemen. He's in Djibouti. And Alan, this report represents a year's work by this UN monitoring team, but it seems very much as though it won't do anything to stop, in the immediate sense, the war in Yemen and the suffering of the Yemeni people.
Well, certainly we know that the three-person panel carried out 14 fact-finding trips. They spoke to eyewitnesses. It took them a while to compile the report. They sent advance copies of the report to all the governments named in it. And it was a very strongly worded report. They are saying that war crimes could have been committed, and they believe that those responsible for the war crimes have now been put on a list, and they are going to send them to the appropriate authorities. They have criticised both sides, and there was also a warning, without naming any names, to the international community to stay out of the conflict in Yemen. We know that the Iranians have been supporting the Houthis. We know that the Saudi-led coalition has received weapons from the United States and the United Kingdom. In fact, if you remember, when the Saudi Crown Prince went to the White House and sat in the Oval Office with Donald Trump, he produced essentially a poster board of the weapons that Saudi Arabia was buying from the United States. Certainly when we saw the attack on the bus just a couple of weeks ago, there were calls in the United States for the US to reconsider its position. Those calls may well get louder, given this report coming from this three-man panel of experts. But what we're unlikely to see is any immediate reaction from any of the governments. Certainly we've heard nothing from the Saudis, from the government in Sana'a itself, or from the United Arab Emirates. But there are those who will hope that this will put pressure on all sides, particularly as the United Nations is brokering peace talks between both sides, which get underway on September the 6th. They will hope that the international pressure that comes from this report, and also you'll remember the Human Rights Watch report of 24 hours ago that said the Saudi coalition isn't investigating allegations of war crimes to international standards, that might just do enough to force other countries to speak out and get both sides round the table and a peace deal sorted to end what is now almost a 4-year war.
Alan Fisher.